that sounds good.
Carl, anytime you want to start, just go right ahead.
Yep. So good morning, everyone. Carl Thielgoen. I am the Conservation Planning and Training Coordinator with the Department of Conservation and Recreation. So I wanted to first welcome you all here today. Thanks for joining us. We have a great opportunity today to listen to and learn from Bobby Whitescarver. First, wanted to remind you that this is part of the DCR Conservation Planner Certification course requirements. So if you're working through that series of courses, once you're done with today, you can log today's date in the training tracking module and get your credit for attending today. And if you have any other questions related to that, feel free to drop that in the chat. If you have any other questions as we go along today for Bobby, then drop that in the chat. We'll stop periodically as we get questions and have discussions and work through those. Little quick intro for Bobby, and then we'll let him take over. Bobby spent 31 years with NRCS, 26 of those years as the DC alongside the Headwaters Soil and Water Conservation District. He has helped farmers exclude livestock from over 700 miles of streams in Virginia and plant over 500,000 hardwood trees. He also has 2 farms in Augusta County and teaches natural resources management at James Madison University. So with that, I will hand it off to Bobby.
Thank you, Carl. Mara, do we have any housekeeping things about the view people have, or what, people need to know that?
Yeah, so as Bobby kind of goes and shares his screens and turns off his share screen, it'll probably be best for you to be in gallery view. So if you are on your Zoom screen, the top right corner, there's a little bit of a circle that says view, and you can change between speaker view, gallery view, or immersive. I'd recommend you be on gallery view so we can see everyone's faces. And again, Bobby welcomes everyone to turn their cameras on so we can see each other, especially as we get into more discussion later on. We're going to go into breakout rooms, and I'll be around to talk you through getting into those later. And this is being recorded, and we're going to post it on the association's website as well as on our YouTube page. And I'll follow up with everyone with a copy or a link to that recording. So stay tuned for that. And Bobby, that's all I've got.
Okay, Mara, thank you so much. So we're going to have 3 breakout sessions for about 4 minutes each. And I don't want to waste any time figuring out who's going to talk about what the report out. So the association staff is going to assign people to lead that discussion. So Mara, you're going to be in charge of that. Good morning, everyone. I'm encouraging you to cut your video on so I can see you. James, thanks for putting your video on. I'd like to give a shout out to Charles Newton, director from Shenandoah Valley, and also to Mary Sketch, who is the director for the Virginia Soil Health Initiative. Thanks for being here. So I'm zooming in this morning from my kitchen counter in Churchville, Virginia, at our Whiskey Creek Angus farm, which is at the beginning of the South Fork of the Shenandoah. Now, most everyone here that's on this Zoom is a conservationist. And when we go out on a farm, most likely you can recognize how to fix any resource needs out there. You know how to fix the problem. And so, there's an old saying that conservation is not science, it's sociology. So how do we convince someone that A, they have a problem, and B, it would be to their benefit to fix it? And, when I started in this job of conservation, we didn't have a cost share program in Virginia. So we had to sell conservation on its merits alone from an economic standpoint. And so now, you've got record funding this year. So how in the world are you going to roll out and put conservation on the ground in a voluntary system? So we have the funding, we know how to do it. So the problem is, how do you convince somebody to do it? So that's what this session is all about, is selling conservation. So I'm going to share my screen now. So Mara, is that showing up?
Yep, looks all good.
Okay, so this is a view from our farm in the Shenandoah Valley. This is where we farm. This is my wife, Jeannie Hoffman. She's a 9th generation farmer. And our dog, Val, who is worth 2 men, at least 2 men. He's a working dog. We have a commercial cow-calf operation, and our whole livelihood is selling calves. So we use rotational grazing, nutrient management. This is a drone shot of our river farm, which shows the riparian buffer along Middle River that we planted in 2004. So Blair, you were here 8 years ago, and you should see it now. This shot was taken in 2018. And our new farm in Churchville, Whiskey Creek Angus, we just finished last year our 2 contracts with Headwater Soil and Water Conservation District to, we put in 1 mile of stream exclusion fence, 1 mile of pipeline, and 1 mile of internal fencing for rotational grazing. And we planted 3,000 trees, and it all worked beautifully. I thank Virginia and all the people that helped. And Carl said I was in the NRCS for 31 years, so I'm familiar with and designed lots of watering systems, a lot of waste management systems. And in Headwaters, we have 16 flood control dams. So Headwaters continues to rehab these structures. So that's part of selling too. How do you make the pitch to your sponsors? I'm also a teacher at JMU. This is my last year's class. We're learning about contour farming and contour lines there. So when I retired 10 years ago, I wrote a book on how to sell riparian forest buffers. And these same principles could work for anything: conservation, watershed projects, mitigation, easements, soil health, or even a new pair of shoes. So I'm going to share with you what I think are 7 principles for success in selling conservation. So the 7 principles are: set your own goals, build trust, build a winning team, master the processes, make it simple, market and remarket, and lastly, know your product. So we're going to go through these 7, and then we're going to have strategically located breakout sessions where we can engage in some conversation. So the first principle is set your own goals. Now, of course, many of you have supervisors that have a set of goals for you. I remember when I was in NRCS, we DCs would sit around the area conservationist big conference room, and he'd go around the room. He was given a set of goals. For example, we had to put in, 100 waste management systems, and he'd go around the room to each DC and say, well, how many can you put in? I remember one DC said 1. So it was, divvy it up somehow. And we always said, whatever goal you give us, we are going to reach those goals. And that wasn't satisfying for me. We reached those goals every year, but for me personally, I needed more. So I had my own goals to make my work satisfied. So we would have our own team sit around and we would say, well, what are we going to do this year? What's our goal? What are your goals? I never had a goal for how many miles of stream banks are we going to fence out. That wasn't a goal, but we made it a goal. And I remember when we first started fencing cattle out of streams in the late 90s, our first goal was, well, let's do a mile. And as we grew and cost share programs improved, that goal became 40 miles. And when I retired, we did put in 40 miles of stream exclusion in one district, in the Headwaters District. And believe me, when we reached that goal, we were so happy. I told everybody on the team to check it up, clock out, and drive to this farm where we did the 40th mile, and I bought a bottle of champagne, and we celebrated that. So I'm encouraging you to set your own goals that make you satisfied in your work. So we're going to have our first breakout session, and Mara is going to just put you in a room, and 8 of you are going to discuss this question: how does your office set goals? And do you have your own on-the-job personal goals? So we're going to take 4 minutes, Mara. And when you say go, we're going to do it, and then we'll report out.
Cool. Okay, so I've made the rooms and I have messaged someone from each room to ask if they would be the person to report back. I'll just say it out loud now because I don't know if everyone got my message. If you are willing, Mary Sketch, would you be a breakout room report out person? Ashley Palmer, Mr. Newton, Carl, Amy Walker, Deanna Farrer, and that's it. So if those people could be the ones to share back out after we get out of our 4-minute breakout room, that'd be great. And I'll make sure I put in the chat box of this question so you have that in case you forget it. I'm going to click open all rooms, and you can just click accept or go to that breakout room. I can't exactly remember what pops up, but you should be invited to enter a room, and you can just go ahead and join that room. And let me set a timer now so I can close those rooms in 4 minutes. Oops. Okay. Oops, some people had joined late and they're not assigned to one. Let me make sure I get you assigned.
And just to keep things lively, I've got my friend here.
Ah, I love it.
Please turn your video on.
I'm pretty sure in the breakout rooms, they automatically turn on, so that's a good thing.
Okay.
Okay, so everyone should be invited. You can go ahead and click join. If you're having issues, come off mute and we'll try and help you out, but everyone's been invited besides the folks who are co-hosts here. So association staff and Bobby were not assigned to a breakout room.
All right, let's go.
Oh, let me send that message to people in the chat.
I started my watch for 4 minutes.
Okay, good, because I started it before I kind of clicked join. So right now I have 3 minutes left on mine. Okay, so the question is, oops, I took a picture of it, but let's see. How does your office set goals? And do you job personal goals? I think everyone should get that chat. I hope.
Yeah, shouldn't the goal be we're going to delist every TMDL stream in Virginia,
Bold.
So Mara, is that right? There's 4 people that haven't,
Well, that's us.
no.
Well,
CDL
Oh, yeah, those people didn't accept yet, so
Okay,
if you're having issues, people who are here, you can come off mute and, or in the chat and ask, but they've been invited, they just didn't click join yet. They might have stepped away from their computers.
aha.
I'll let you guys chat, but I just saw Darby plug in her computer and remembered that I didn't plug mine in. So 1 second.
You're good. Okay, I'm gonna broadcast that we have about 2 minutes left. That's all right, Sarah.
she's in room 5.
Who?
Sarah just,
Oh, she said she's not able to join the breakout room.
oh.
Yeah.
Oh, where she
She's
can,
like, yeah, doing something else. Hopefully everyone's doing good in their breakout rooms.
So Mara, I'm gonna ask you to call on each breakout leader to, report out.
Sounds good. Looks like one of my leaders left, so that's
Oh, no.
okay.
Oh,
Mary.
Mary Sketch?
Yeah, where'd she go?
I don't know.
Okay, so I'm not gonna call on her because she's not here.
Okay.
All right.
Shannon. Oh, gotta go. Never mind. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. That's my alarm for 4 minutes about to go off. Do you want me to close the rooms, Bobby, or give them like another?
Well, we'll give them another 30 seconds.
Just enough time to tell Shannon that you look like a famous like home decorator. Like you should have your own TV show. And it's like,
really?
yeah, it's time for Shannon's hour. I'm Joanna
Sitting
Gaines.
in front of my dining room fireplace.
Yeah,
It looks very fancy. It's very nice.
yeah.
Thanks.
It's Martha Stewart's kitchen.
It's a good thing you can't see the rest of the area or the sleeping dogs.
Want to see the sleeping dogs?
All right, I'll close them out. So they have like 1 minute to get back. I guess that's just how Zoom works, but they're able to come back to us earlier if they want to. I guess next time I'll do that in my 30-second warning.
So Mara, you closed out the rooms.
Yeah, so they have 10 seconds. If they're not back already, they'll automatically be kicked back to our space now.
For management.
Yeah, so everyone should be back right now.
Okay, Mara,
Okay.
call on the leaders.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We had one leader that ended up leaving, so I apologize, room 1, that person didn't end up joining your room, but hopefully you had good conversations nonetheless. I'm gonna call on room 2. Ashley Palmer, can you share out about what your group talked about goal setting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 4 minutes is only 4 minutes, but we got to think as many voices as we could. So Abby with Mountain Castle was saying that her group has a team contract that really helps them to hold each other accountable. There are, new goals and rewards like a staff lunch or going out for coffee if everybody meets their goals. So they have a lot of really good camaraderie there. Logan from Tri-County City said that their goals are always to do better than last year. So they look at their numbers from last year and look at their opportunities to improve. And their outreach was a little bit affected by COVID, but not, cost share and things like that much. And then some of their goals are really to just increase the percent obligated for their funds. And then Steven said that about 3 out of 5 of his staff members were new.
But I can't find them.
So that was a little challenging for them, but their goals were definitely to increase outreach to farmers, and they did have a good contractor backlog. And then Brandon from Northern Neck said that their goals are always to have more signups than funds. So that's one of the ways that they see that they're achieving their goals is more people interested than they have money for. And then myself with Northern Virginia,
Oh no, Ashley, you went on mute.
love technology, apologies. We set our goals, I think, by having pre-regular staff meetings just to check in with everyone. And we also work on our annual plan of work and our annual report together so we can kind of see how we did over the last year and how we'd like to do in the future.
Super.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Mr. Charles Newton from room 3, if you're able to share.
Okay, so about half of the people in our room did not have active microphones. A couple tried to contribute over the chat, but it was a little difficult. But basically, everybody acknowledged that they had goals with their supervisor for their personal work, and quite a few of these employees were fairly new to their jobs. But they also, their districts and in some cases other groups sometimes have staff meetings where they compare notes and see, get a sense of how others are doing and what they personally can contribute. So that was the major findings, I guess, from our group.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you. Carl, can you share out for your room 4 if you're able to come off mute?
Sure. So we kind of had a little bit of different take. One of the participants, Alita, is actually in the education kind of realm, not the normal ag cost share side. So she shared more about her personal goal settings that she does, as well as kind of the reporting back and the district's goals of reaching certain amount of schools, certain amount of children, and now branching out into kind of the adult education and some of the other opportunities available in her district and area there. So a little bit different than kind of the normal cost share side.
Cool.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah. Amy Walker for room 5. If we have her.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to double unmute. Our group was a good mix of state, federal, and district staff. Common things that we had were outreach, trying to reach out to new farmers, increasing educational awareness and outreach of VCAP, and then deadlines, whether that was application deadlines, ranking, percent obligation met at the state and district or federal and district level, and then just continuing sign up were some of the major goals and things. But the most common one was just trying to meet those application and program deadlines.
Thanks,
Very
Amy.
good. Thank you.
Okay, last but not least, Deanna Farrer.
All right, thank you. Our group was made up mostly of new district staff. So their personal goals as well as their supervisor goals were to get their certification in conservation planning and some engineering job approval authority. Also, the districts use their annual plan of work to help set goals and develop action items to address those goals on a yearly basis. Also using their cost share funding to help set their goals as well. Some new employees have individual development plans, so that district uses that to help provide other professional development opportunities and enhance or improve skills that they'll need for this job. We had one state agency that's more customer service based, so their goals were addressing complaints from the public. As far as my district goes, I'm the manager here, so my personal goals are to have a productive team. I want my staff to enjoy their work and love their job, so I'm always trying to make sure their skills match what they're trying to do, and if not, we can tweak some few things. But a strategic plan and annual plan of work and evaluations and staff meetings are all tools that I think all the districts use. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Thank you.
That's all, Bobby.
Okay. Well, very good. I hope you got a little bit out of that, and if you're not, satisfied with the goals, we had the goals, and one of our goals was to obligate all the money, but that wasn't really fulfilling for me. We did that, and I think it'll be difficult for you all to do that this year because you've got so much money coming along. But be sure and develop your own personal goals as well. So the second principle is to build trust. And I'm talking about, trust is built on relationships. You have to spend time with people to build that trust. We have our external customers, which are our producers. And you also have to build trust with your internal specialists, the people that are going to process your application for your client. And so then that's part of, building a winning team, but you got to build those relationships. And so how do you do that? Well, you've got to interact one-on-one. And I think it goes far beyond just texting, and one of the things that works, especially with farmers, is you got to stop by for short visits at first, because they've got to get to know you. And don't waste their time. Just go there, meet them, and give them something like a flyer or something. You can even invite them to events. Call them up on the phone and invite them to an event. Email them. If they do text, that's fine, but keep something going with them. Spend some time with them. That's how you're going to build trust. We have people that come by on the farm. You don't want the reputation of, oh my God, here comes so-and-so, let's hide. You want them to say, oh, here comes so-and-so, I'm so glad to see him. That's your goal. And we did something, you all can take forms to them instead of them having to come into the office. So, you all still make house calls, and that's very good. That doesn't happen in today's world where you can't even talk to somebody. They have these websites and everything, but you can't even find a phone number. You have to communicate by email, but not you. You guys can go out in the field and meet people and spend some time with them. So that's really to your advantage. And also listen to them, because that's where you're going to find the hook that, they need. They need something, and you need to be listening for that. sometimes it's hard to deliver what you promise because we have different funding cycles. And, I had a hard time with that because we would get this money and then they take it away or blah, blah, blah. So be sure you deliver what you promise always, and follow up on projects. Don't just put the project in and walk away. You need to service the account. I know you don't have time, but you need to make time to go service that account. Trust takes time. Now, anytime you all have a question, you can put it in the chat box and Mara will shuffle them to me. So the third principle is building a winning team. And so if you look around the state, around the country, those field offices that get a lot done have a winning team. And so, the team is the staff plus your partners plus your internal specialists. So when we were at the peak of our getting more on the ground, we had weekly staff conferences for riparian buffers with FSA, NRCS, the district, the Department of Forestry, and we would go through a list of people because we didn't want anybody to fall through the cracks. So that's the team. And so you got to all work together to be a winning team. And so, of course, we need to work together and recognize the value of diversity. And I'm not just talking about, race and color and things like that. I'm talking about diversity and personality as well. You need to match your clients up with the right person in the field to communicate and build that relationship. And then lastly, we need to cross-train every member of the team. So, nothing is more disappointing to a farmer, to a producer, when the producer has a question about another program that might help them out. And, the district employee would say, oh, well, you'll have to talk to NRCS about that. That's the wrong thing to say. We need to be cross-trained in every BMP program so that we can provide service to these people. They really don't care which agency or organization you work for. What they want is help. And so, they don't really care what agency you work for. They all think we're the government, so just keep that in mind. Now, the fourth one is master the processes. There's so many processes in the BMP world, and you all are very familiar with those. There's eligibility, sign up, environmental ranking, cultural resources, permits, all kinds of things that prevent us from getting more on the ground. And so in order to do that, you need to master how to get that done. Recognize that processes can impede progress toward the goal, and figure out the most expeditious way to work through those processes. The CPA 52, the ranking, and the computer. There's all kinds of things that can trip you up, and so processes should increase efficiency, not make it more difficult for field people to get more done. So there's some middle managers in here on this call, and just remember that. And so guess what? Breakout session 2, and this is going to be very helpful to us. What processes impede your progress the most, and how can they be streamlined? Okay, so that's a pretty big topic. We're going to spend 5 minutes on this one. So Mara, let's break out and get started on that.
Okay. And I combined some rooms for the folks who are having some technology issues. So those people have been put into other rooms. Hopefully we've got more even spread of people able to participate. Those same people are able to share it again. We'd really appreciate that. Let me get my timer ready. 5 minutes. And I will make sure I send that same question in the chat as well, like last time. Okay. All right, rooms are open. You should be able to go and join those same rooms. For the most part, some of them moved around just for those who are having issues, but go ahead and join. See you in 5 minutes.
Very good.
Or I've got the question typed up if you want me to send it once.
Oh, do it. Well, actually, wait. Oh, I think you can put it in the chat now. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna wait till everyone's gone because I've had that happen before where like once you're in a room.
Yeah. And I assume it may have been them last time. There's on my screen when I'm doing the breakout rooms, there's like a broadcast message to all. So I could do it that way too. But you can go ahead and do yours and I'll do mine in like 30 seconds or something.
Oh, sorry, I did the broadcast message.
Oh, perfect. I don't know you could do that.
I see it.
Fabulous. Okay, hopefully the rooms are better spread this time. Seemed to work well last time.
I love hearing from Deanna. She's so sweet and knowledgeable.
I know, I agree. I was happy she said yes, because sometimes she doesn't like to share in big groups.
It's also nice to see the staff, like to see all these names because I don't know the ag staff as well. So there are a lot more names that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, there's
Lots of new faces.
most of the participants. I don't know. I've never met them. You know.
Definitely a lot of new people.
So did you set your timer, Amara?
Yep, we've got 3.5 minutes.
This
And
should be a very lively discussion because this was the worst aspect of our job, was getting through all these processes. And it gets, as time goes on, it just gets worse.
Right, they just add more to the reporting.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah, I don't even know, honestly, all the details. I just know that it's a lot.
Yeah. It's like a J curve, it's like, it's crazy. I got lots of stories I can tell about that.
Sure. Hey Keith, everyone's in a breakout room right now. They'll be back in like 2 minutes if you just want to hang tight. They're talking about fax processes.
I remember when we used to do prescribed burns, and there was some prescribed burn that got out of hand out west, like they normally do, and we had a cease and desist on all prescribed burns. And we already had one planned, and to get one to go, you all the planets have to align, to get that done. And the boss called a meeting, and I said, well, I can't be there. And he said, well, why not? I said, well, we got something cooking. He never knew.
You wouldn't have done such things.
Keith, are you here? Hey, cut your video on. There he is. It's good to see you. He should have had you be one of the report out leaders. I'm sure you've got lots of stories about processes. Oh, you're muted.
Too many stories about processes, and was just come back from a big project we're working on, and just how things haven't been done correctly in the past and should be done,
Yeah.
No, we're getting ready to put in redo the entire livestock water system at Department of Corrections here in Goochland and Powhatan, which will probably be 50 water troughs. I can't tell you how many miles of pipeline and fences and all that good stuff. So nice project.
Good. Good to hear. I think we bought some heifers from, well, we bought some heifers from a prison from somewhere in the east. Was that one of your?
It could have been, it may have been probably from Southampton, I expect.
Okay. How's the time, Mara?
I'm gonna click close rooms now. I've got 10 seconds left, so
Okay.
they will be booted back here in 60 seconds. Oh, everyone's having good discussion. No one came back early. 10 seconds and they'll be back.
Yeah, this should be pretty lively here.
Okay. You want the same thing as last time, Bobby?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna be taking notes.
We got this recorded, so don't worry.
Okay.
Okay. I'll go backwards from last time just to give everyone else a different chance. Deanna, are you ready to share out about what your group talked about? I should have told you that in advance. But...
Hey, Mara, this is Trisha.
Uh-huh.
Deanna had to step out.
Okay.
So I'm taking the class for, just to get some hours in. And so I kind of helped out. What we talked about was some of the frustrations we have with doing some of the T&E stuff, checking the boxes and doing what we're supposed to do on our end, but we don't get responses back from the agencies that we're, just so that we know that we can keep moving. I know we've got a BDAX employee and sometimes it's hard for them because, being regulatory, they're not always welcome with open arms when they show up, because usually it's because they have, there's an issue that's got to be dealt with. But other than that, I think the group, I talked about what Bobby talked about as far as developing your relationships with your partners and your office co-workers, and as well as with the farmers. So we had a good little discussion.
That's good. Thanks for sharing out.
Yeah, thanks.
Amy, you want to go next?
Sure. We had, I think the biggest is tracking, whether it's just a massive amount of data entry and digitizing. I think that there's been attempts to kind of streamline that process with bulk editor, but still it's just the amount. And with record cost share, that amount just continues to increase. But also in terms of printing forms and statuses that are set, if there are, perhaps a different status could be added so that when you're printing out contracts, makes the process a little bit smoother. Instead of having to constantly change the contract status, because I think there's like 4 or 5 different statuses that you can use, that there may be some possibilities to streamline that. And the other one, the big one that was talked about, was on-site meetings to try to make sure that everyone is there, at least for that initial meeting, NRCS, districts, DOS, engineers if they're needed, so that everybody can start off on the same page versus having to schedule a series of different meetings with the various partners and trying to piecemeal them out together again. it's just a better use of time, which is a valuable commodity with dollars that are going out. And so that was just a big one, is just everybody meeting on site at the same time to start off on a solid foundation for getting the project moving forward.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Carl, you want to go next?
Okay. One of the first item that popped up as far as a barrier that folks are running into or come against is the fact that we have so many new folks, and that the learning curve for learning the job and the programs and all the steps, and it just takes so long, and it's so involved that it takes a while for folks to get up to speed. So that's kind of, just a large upfront process that needs to get through. Also, that funding drives some of the priorities instead of the priorities, whatever that may be, of working with the farmers driving it. Sometimes the programs are not built out as well as they could be. And then just the administrative workload that Amy was kind of referring to just now as well. So that was kind of the biggest items that our group talked about.
Thank you, Carl.
Charles?
So our group also still had about half the folks that had microphone issues or didn't have a microphone. But certainly the last couple of years of COVID has made it very difficult for collaboration within offices. And we do also have lots of, our group mentioned that lots of new employees that are still learning when to ask for help and not to try to do everything by themselves. Making sure that you have the nutrient management plans needed when you're doing cover crops, so that sort of thing. Sometimes it's a matter, that the farmer has asked for a plan update but hadn't received it yet, or all those little moving pieces. And then the importance of sometimes assisting the farmers with things like finding additional contractors to give them prices, or to help them through the permit approval process for with the county or the state on some of these things. So lots of processes.
Yeah.
All right, Ashley, you want to wrap us up?
Absolutely. So I think our group's conversation boiled down to two main challenges. One is, working with partners, because we have so many different partners. Connecting with everyone can be challenging. Figuring out who has the answers to the question that you're trying to ask can be challenging. And sometimes when agencies are kind of siloed, or maybe they work better independently, it's often challenging to work with them and get them engaged in your projects. And then the second challenge that we identified was having newer employees. It seems like a lot of districts have a lot of newer employees, but being really old agencies, there's a lot of institutional knowledge that's lost when some of the more veteran employees either retire or find other work. So some of the newer employees feel like it takes a really long time to get on board and to learn everything that they need to do their job most efficiently.
Thank you, Ashley. So I think we've been through all the groups. Thank you for that input. It seems like processes have taken the products hostage. And so it's very important to master those processes, and actually young, new people probably have fresh ideas on how to streamline the processes, especially with, technology and computer stuff. So that's part of the diversity that I'm talking about is young people, different personalities, different, of course, different race and, religions and things like that, but it's more than that. So value diversity and use that, everybody's got some ideas, and welcome them. So we've got a lot of new people. Is that right? So that's, that's why most of you are here. So thank you for being here. Now, step number 5 is make things simple. So if you're trying to, when you go on the farm and you know what those resource concerns are, and you've made the pitch, and let's say they bought into it, oftentimes we have all this knowledge that we just, spew out everything we know. And it just overwhelms the client. And what I found was most successful was, first of all, help the clients get through red tape. They don't really care about the tracking program. They don't want to hear about that. They don't want to hear about the CPA 52. They don't want to hear about, oh, there's not enough engineers, or the T&E thing hadn't come back yet, blah, blah, blah. They don't care about that. So we would shield our clients from all that and try to make it as seamless and seamless as possible. And never use jargon, with clients. And we would always present options, and hardly ever more than two options is about it, and of course tell them there's more options, but these are the 2 that we think would fit your needs the most, and present it to them on one piece of paper. Don't take the full conservation plan out there on your first visit. Just go out there with one sheet of paper, 2 options, and let them talk and listen to them. Okay, so that works out the best. Now, marketing. So I call this market and remarket, because you never know what might trigger conversion. And I'll tell you a little story. At Headwaters, we would have a BMP tour every year for farmers. And we get on a school bus and go around to different jobs that we just completed to show off some cool work. And we had this bus driver that would be the bus driver every year. And this was in, July when school wasn't in. After about 7 years, the bus driver signed up for stream exclusion. And of the thousands of farmers I've helped, I always ask them, well, now what compelled you to get in the program? And the bus driver said, well, y'all kept sending me letters and brochures, and I've been driving this bus for 7 years, and it just finally clicked. So it takes a long time. And remember that relationship building. We spent time. We kept going. So you never stop outreach, because you never know what's going to trigger conversion. I remember when DCR paid some big marketing company to figure out, well, how do we market stuff? And the conclusion was, you just keep going. You just never know. So when we're selling conservation, it's basically overcoming 2 big questions. Is it worth it to me? And am I able to do it? So you all have so many things at your disposal, especially with record funding. And last time I checked, there were at least 8 different programs to help farmers fence cattle out of streams. So there's a whole lot of things to learn. And remember, I talked about being cross-trained. You need to know all those programs so that you're able to connect the dots to get the job done. So there's, how will it make their work easier and more profitable? We're going to talk in a few minutes about the difference between features and benefits. And so what are the benefits to the producer? And are they able to do it? So somebody needs to help them do that. And that's probably you. You need to inspect the job during construction. And, you know, I don't mean to call out contractors, but, you know, some of them are going to cut corners. And, you know, when that pump goes out, they're not going to be, you know, they're going to be mad at you, not the contractor. And we often had to find funding for our clients. We had a farm credit right up the road from our office, and we had a relationship with the farm credit people. So they could simply take a worksheet up to the farm credit office and get a loan that day for the upfront costs. So help them get there, and take forms to them, and try to lessen that red tape burden. So now the third breakout session is, how do you and your office market your products? So that's going to be the third and last breakout session. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to talk about that. So Mara, let's go.
All right, y'all know the drill. I'll open up the breakout rooms. Now, you can go ahead and join. See you in 5 minutes. Oh, Keith, I can put you in one too if you want. Let's see.
That's up to you, whatever.
I'll put you in one.
Bobby and I are old school.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I'll put you in room 5.
Maura, I was not as good this time with typing up the question before it disappeared.
Oh,
So
I've got it. The bus driver story was very good, Bobby. I like that.
Yeah. Well, you know, you never know.
Yeah.
You know, one time we had, you know, we had this idea that we would get the FSA map and get all the people along a stream, and we'd send them personal letters, a typed up first class letter, and we'd all write notes on there in handwriting, you know, and send it to them. We didn't get a single response. Not one.
That's tricky.
Yeah. But we try, the opportunities are limitless about outreach.
Yeah, and always changing too.
Yeah.
Bobby, what classes at JMU do you teach?
I teach natural resources management in the ISAT department, and I teach environmental activism and justice in the political science department.
Okay.
That's a new course this year.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
I went to JMU. I studied earth science and environmental science.
Cool. Now, what college was that in? Was that in biology?
It was in geology.
Geology. Okay.
So I
Cool.
spent all my time in Memorial Hall.
Okay. Well, I was in the ISAT building. They call that the dark side, of campus.
Well, it's different now. Now all the geology is over in that building as well.
Yeah. So when did you graduate?
2018.
Very good.
Yeah, it's a shame. I wish I had one of your classes.
Yeah, me
To
too.
do the contour lines.
Yeah. Every student, their number one thing is getting outside and getting their hands on something, and in the natural resource class, we get out a lot, go on farm. During COVID, we just had them come here to the farm and, be outside. We got a big barn. We converted the corn crib into an educational building. That's where we had class.
That's so cool.
Yeah. That was a tough year. Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure. As much as I love working from home, I don't know if I would have been a really good student from home.
Yeah. agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody was starved for engagement,
Mhm.
interaction.
Yeah. But that hands-on learning, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah. Plus, it was the same price. Now, I don't understand how it can be the same cost if everybody's, in the dorm room or, at home and stuff. It's not the same.
Mhm.
So I think they should have reduced tuition a lot, but not my salary.
No. All right, they've got about 1 minute left.
Sorry, guys, I keep cutting my camera off. They are doing road work right outside my house. They're repaving the entire road and my dogs are just going berserk. Every
First the
time they're,
chickens, now the roads.
yeah, they're just going crazy.
And you should show us your dogs.
Enzo. Come
Oh.
here. And there we go. That's one of them.
That's funny. Okay, I'm gonna close the rooms.
Okay. I like how you mixed it up, Mara.
What did I do? Oh, last time, yeah.
Yeah, mixed up the reporting.
Yeah, I kept them on their toes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think everyone is back.
Yeah. So now I'm encouraging y'all to cut on your video so we can see you. But anyway, Mara, who's going first this time?
I will call on Ashley Palmer first.
Thank you. Thank you. So honored. Our group talked primarily about word of mouth. It seems like overall word of mouth is the most successful way that our programs are being shared. One person will get something done and then they'll tell a neighbor and then they tell a neighbor and that gets shared pretty quickly. Also, having good relationships with partners is really important because the partners will kind of sell each other's programs. So one person mentioned that they would get like a lot of people interested in their programs from, the Department of Forestry or something like that. And then I mentioned in my area, because it's a more urban area, that we're working on making a lot of our information bilingual. So that way we can reach a larger audience, primarily in Spanish, but being in Nova, we have quite the mixing pot here. So we're just trying to make sure that we're reaching the largest audience we can.
Very good, actually. So yeah, word of mouth. Jealousy sells a lot of conservation, and believe me, gossip gets around. So yeah, who's next?
Charles.
Similar comments brought up from our group. Certainly farmers markets, other places where farmers gather are good places to do marketing. And yeah, word of mouth does make a difference. If you've made some friends who see the value, or producers who see the value in what you're doing, they'll tell their neighbors, and good chance you'll get some more leads.
Yeah, that brings up a good point, Charles. In the early days of CREP, people didn't do any management in those areas, and we had a lot of failures, and a lot of farms in these buffers grew up in invasive weeds. Well, that's not the way to sell conservation, because farmers will drive by there and say, well, I don't want that on my farm. So we missed the boat on that. And now with the state program and with all the partners we have, management is a lot more, we're doing a lot more management in these buffer areas, which sells conservation. Okay. Who's next?
Carl.
All right. So a couple of the same kind of things, the newsletters, articles in newspapers, school field trips, putting on events and attending other events, whether it's trainings, field days, that sort of thing. Also in that marketing material, trying to make sure that the economic incentive portion, that there is assistance to help get things on the ground, that's kind of a key message in that process. And then one district mentioned having a marketing committee that's looking at different options, trying to reach new audiences and broaden their reach. And the last one thing was trying to make sure we're partnering and reaching out with Extension and other groups so that the message, or at least contact information, that there's more help and things available to farmers and landowners gets out there.
Very good. Thank you, Carl.
All right, Amy, next.
All right, I think our most common theme was definitely word of mouth from farmer to farmer, as practices get installed and they talk to each other. Secondly was kind of outreach, either postcards sent with sign updates and fax information, monthly newsletters or news articles, but also attending outreach events like cattle producer meetings, farm bureau meetings, field days, and again, that face-to-face interaction. And then the other one that was touched on was longevity of staff health. So if you've got a district that has had staff there for a number of years, they're easily recognizable. And so people can talk up to them, whether at their grocery store or, out at an event, they're easily recognizable, and that rapport has been built. And so there's, just that level of comfort in just walking up to somebody and starting to talk to them. So that was mentioned. And then just with the end of COVID, again, all the open houses and producer meetings will be ramping back up, and that'll get back to that, just passing information word of mouth and building that rapport with producers.
Very good. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, and the last group, if Deanna was back, or Trisha, or anyone willing from that group to share out.
Deanna's back. Thank you.
Thanks, Deanna.
Thank you, Patricia. Very much the same type of outreach, brochures, going to county fairs, livestock sales, exhibits, flyers. One district had a program for certain landowners. Say they did a direct mail, and they had a little event at a local brewery. The importance of business cards and having your information, contact information on the business card. Farm tours. Our district's done a lot of farm tours where you were showcasing some of the practices and inviting farmers to that. Also, when they're talking to farmers, good communication, being patient with them and explaining the process. You may have to go through that several times. Because it is a lot to take in for a farmer to understand all that, those processes and the standards and the specs and all that. Social media, we're starting to use more of that. Farmers seem to be tuned into using social media. And we just recently had what we call a partners breakfast. So we invited all of our partners, like our NRCS partners, FSA, Extension, Department of Forestry, etc. And they had 5 minutes on the agenda, really just to introduce themselves. And we had the Virginia State University Small Farm Program representatives there as well. And that's who we marketed to, was to farmers that we don't regularly do business with, because we wanted to get some new folks out there. And that was very successful, using listservs from Extension and Virginia State and all of our partners. So your partners should have listservs that they can send out emails on and flyers. FSA, at least here in our offices, they have a monthly electronic newsletter that goes out, and I'm sure they'd be willing to post stuff about the district, whether you're having an event or sign up or whatever.
Very good, Deanna. Thank you very much. Now, it brings up a couple of points I want to hone in on. You know, all of you mentioned word of mouth was the best, you know, method, but how do you get that? And that's why it's important to spend some time with people, you know, and we, you know, do y'all do cold calls? You know, the new people especially need to meet people, and it's okay to make a cold call. In other words, you know, go meet people and just stay a short time and meet them. You know, farmers appreciate that very much. So, you know, we used to have goals. Well, how many cold calls did you make this week? You know, and I'm not sure y'all want to do that, but it's very effective, and it starts building that trust. And another thing I'd like to bring up is a newsletter. Jeannie and I greatly enjoy getting our extension newsletter. I think it comes out bi-weekly. So, you know, I encourage all of your offices to send out, you know, get some kind of newsletter out there through email. So very, very good discussion. Thank you. Okay, now the last principle is to know your product. And I know this, you know, sounds pretty easy, but there's a little more to it. And so today I'm going to share with you some tips and points about riparian buffers and livestock exclusion. And so your product might be soil health, it might be dam rehab, it doesn't matter, but you need to know your product inside and out. And one of the things that, you know, we need to learn is to know the difference between a feature and a benefit, because when you're first getting to know a potential client, they don't really want to know too much about the features. They want to know how it's going to help them be safer, be more efficient, be more profitable. How is it going to benefit them? So let's take an example of a fence. And, you know, you all studied the specifications on fence and so forth. Well, you know, for example, line posts in a woven wire fence system. Well, this is a feature. The feature is the post needs to be 4 inches in diameter. Now, the farmer doesn't need to know that up front, you know, when you're trying to sell stream fencing. They want to know how it's going to benefit them. And so that fence, depending on what their needs are, maybe it's to keep livestock out of calving risk areas. Maybe it's to help the farmer get the livestock into the barnyard easier, where, you know, fences can do that. So keep in mind the difference between features and benefits, and sell conservation on the benefits, not the features. So let's talk about riparian forest buffers. Now, in my mind, there's 3 parts to it: the forested buffer, the fencing system, and the livestock watering system. So on our river farm, we planted our riparian buffer in 2004, and for 4 years, I did E. coli sampling for the Friends of Middle River when the farm when the river entered our farm. Way up at the top of this picture, I would take a water sample here, and I'd take a water sample when it left the farm a half a mile later, and we checked the E. coli. And oftentimes that E. coli was off the charts. You know, there were some months that were over 8,000 colony forming units per 100 milliliters of water. And by the time that water left our farm, on average, so I sampled it for 4 years every month. And we averaged it all out, and by the time the water leaves our farm, because it's going through a riparian forest buffer, the E. coli was reduced 55%. Now that's pretty amazing. And I'm going to show you, on Pogue Run, this is a picture of Pogue Run that we fenced out years ago. Here's the E. coli petri dish before we fenced the cows out, and there it is afterwards. And you can see clearly that fencing cattle out clearly reduces pathogens in the water. And the Virginia state standard for human contact in fresh water is now 410 colony forming units per 100 milliliters of water. And one of the things that helped me sell livestock exclusion was the fact that if your cows are drinking water out of the creek, their biosecurity program on their farm is only as good as the worst farm upstream. And another thing that I think is important for you to know, and it's the reason we want trees in the buffer. Now livestock exclusion, I know the state has a program where you don't have to plant trees. That's fine. That's the number one thing, but we're missing the opportunity for 8 times more cleansing power, because we know from science, from the Stroudwater Research Center in Pennsylvania, that a stream going through a forested buffer is 2 to 8 times more capable of processing in-stream pollution. So that's really, the main reason we plant trees is to get 8 times the cleansing power. Now this is Middle River, and I took this shot, this picture from a spot on a property line where this is looking downstream, and upstream looked exactly the same years before we fenced the cows out. So this is looking downstream, and I literally turned just 180 degrees from this point and took a picture upstream. And the only difference was that we fenced the cows out. So, the biggest threat to the water from cattle is sediment that they gouge away from the stream bank. So, that's the main reason we want to fence cattle out of streams is to stop the sediment, and then the nutrients, of course, and the pathogens. So the fencing system keeps livestock out of the stream, of course, but the benefit to the farmer is it keeps them out of a calving risk area. So if you have a cow-calf operation and that cow is going into calving, guess where they go? If they're in trouble, they go to water. And they have the calf, and if you're spring calving like we are, if that calf doesn't get up and nurse within an hour, you're looking at a potential death. And I kid you not, just about every farmer I worked with, they have mortality in the wet areas, in the steep banks, in the rivers, and so forth and so on. So it eliminates the calving risk areas. So a fence is a pretty good insurance policy against calf mortality. And the other great benefit of these livestock exclusion programs is that you can design a system to help that farmer get the livestock into the barnyard a lot easier. So use the programs to do that. So movement of livestock is a critical aspect of the fence layout. Use the streams and the programs to help get livestock into the barnyard. Let's talk about gates. You can't have too many gates. And every now and then there's going to be, an animal that gets in your livestock exclusion area in the buffer, and you're going to need to get them out of there. So you need to put gates at the ends of the fence run to get livestock out. And you need to put gates somewhere to get equipment in there. to mow it or manage it in somehow. So you need to put gates so that equipment can enter the buffer perpendicular to the fence run. Now, usually with gates, I'll make these suggestions to the producer, but I'm going to ask him or her to think about it seriously for a long time, because after we're gone and they wish they'd have put a gate in here or there, you want that on their scorecard, not on yours. So make sure you have thought out and they have thought out where these gates need to go. Now, the watering system is the most important part of the buffer project for the farmer. And I've often sold this practice when I'm in the truck with the farmer and we're riding over the fields. I would ask the question, what do you think would happen if you had a water trough up here or over there? Or, many times the only water source on the whole farm is in one stream, and they've got to walk maybe half a mile to get water. So if you can strategically locate watering troughs throughout the farm, that's going to sell the program. So strategically located watering facilities can greatly enhance grazing distribution, improve herd health, and make moving livestock much easier. Now, the streams, they say they're maintenance free, but they're not. But, when they lose calves and stuff in there, that's not maintenance free. But when we put in a trough, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with that, because they're not maintenance free. Pumps can fail, components freeze, water lines can clog, electricity can go out. Troughs get debris in them. We have to check our watering troughs frequently. And actually we check the watering troughs every time we move cattle in there, because every now and then a cow will defecate right in the trough. And so we have to clean those out. And if you don't go in that field for a long time, you need to check that water to make sure it doesn't smell, because if you leave water in the trough for a long time and say pieces of grass or hay got in there, it's going to rot in there and you'll need to clean that out. So they need to know that up front. So a backup system is imperative. And back in the early days, we didn't do that. And now I think the state program requires that you have a backup program. We have a generator here that when our electricity goes out, we don't have any water for the livestock. So we have a whole house generator, whole farm generator. And we also have an emergency limited access area that if worse comes to shove, we can open a gate and let the livestock in there for the duration of the power outage. So make sure you think through all that, because believe me, if that water goes out and a farmer's cows perish, he's going to be blaming you. So with the thousands of farmers I've helped do this, I've asked every one of them what compelled you to do it. And here's my litany of reasons they do it. Number one, they need more water. The most limiting factor in a rotational grazing system is water. So that's the number one reason. So I want to arm you with that fact. The second most important reason they did it was herd health. Abundant clean water, livestock do much better with abundant clean water than they do with dirty water, because they can get all kinds of illnesses from dirty water. And I'll go through that in just a minute. That fence eliminates calving risk areas. They need to get the livestock into the barnyard too. vaccinate them, treat them for flies, pregnancy check, et cetera, et cetera. Most of them can't do it without program assistance. They don't have $20,000 or $100,000 laying around that they can do these things. So you are a big asset to them and the programs. Some of them fear of future regulation. That's their, that's their hook. And then lastly, they really don't do it for the conservation ethic. I only had one farmer actually say, he sat in my office and said, Kevin, what compels you to do it? He said, well, it was the right thing to do. That was one out of probably, 1,000. I never had a farmer come in the office and say, I want a pollinator corridor or I want a golden wing warbler habitat. They want more water is what they want. Now, this is a fact. In the mid-Atlantic states, more than 50% of cattle illnesses come from the fecal oral pathway. And that's what I was talking about when you're getting the cows out, drinking dirty water. This is where they can get illnesses. So these are some of the illnesses that are associated with polluted water. Mastitis, when that cow drags her udder through pathogen-laden waters and then her calf nurses, that calf's going to get sick. That calf's going to get scours, and they'll have to spend money treating the calf, or they'll have to throw the milk out if they're a milk cow. Leptospirosis, we vaccinate for that, but we can't vaccinate for all the strains. Bovine viral disease, cryptosporidiosis, foot rot, parasites, you name it. It cannot be healthy to drink dirty water. So sort of in conclusion, farmer participation in BMP programs depends on successful outreach and marketing. And you all hit the nail on the head with word of mouth, postcards, meetings, going to farm shows, etc. Teamwork and making things simple for the producer will accelerate progress. The number one reason livestock producers fence their streams is to get more water. Strategically located watering facilities can greatly enhance grazing distribution, improve herd health, and make moving livestock easier. Forested buffers can give us 8 times more cleansing power. Now, the book I wrote on the 7 principles of selling, repairing forested buffers, it's a free download. So you're welcome to download it for free. I'm not selling it. It's there for you. There's lots of stories in there, and it goes through these 7 principles. Also on my webpage, I have 25 one-pager farmer testimonials that are free. You can download them. They're farmers talking about why they did it. So you're welcome to use those. I did write a book, and it is for sale if you want to buy it. It won the Virginia Outdoor Writers Association Outstanding Book in 2019. You can get it off my website. And I write a blog about once a month, and you're welcome to sign up for that. There's my email. You can just tell me to add you to your, to my blog list, and I'll be glad to do it. There's my contact information. There's my phone number. You can call me and I'll talk to you. So feel free to do that. So we'll take discussion and questions now. I'll stop sharing and we'll open it up to questions or discussion, whatever you want. Anybody have a question?
Bobby, this is Deanna down in the Piedmont district. So we have got all the low hanging fruit, so to speak, of producers. And I guess our challenges right now are to get some of these folks that have been resistant to the programs for a long, long time. And, you know, we've tried all these marketing things, and word of mouth works works very well for us. But do you have any suggestions or advice or techniques that we can use?
Well, I think just getting out there and making cold calls, because there's lots of people, there's still people that don't know about these programs. Can you believe that? But it's true. There are people that haven't heard of you. So get out there and make cold calls and start building those relationships. Sometimes it takes time, to do that. So that would be my word of advice, to go out and meet people and just talk to them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bobby, I would agree
Yeah.
with, relationship building is important. And I know we're kind of in the same situation with Deanna, where the low hanging fruit has been accomplished. I guess the other thing is maybe trying to get some of these newer producers is, if you know them by name anyway, or if you know their location, trying to do some background on who do they know, who's helping with them get started. And if that person has done it, maybe taking them with you to the farm to make that cold call.
That's a good
Because it
point.
gives that connection that my neighbor, Bobby helped me get started. He showed me how to build fence. He showed me how to do this. That's who I call when I have a calving problem. So maybe if we can tag along, bring along a neighbor that knows them, gives some more credibility to us when we go meet with those folks cold call.
Yeah, that's a good point, Keith. Yeah, building trust, if they trust you, they will go with you. I promise you. And the state, these programs just keep getting better. When we did our project on Whiskey Creek Angus, I couldn't believe that the district paid us a lump sum rental check. We just, I can't believe it. It's way more than 100% cost share now. So my hat's off to the program managers that keep listening to you all and the farmers, and these programs have evolved and gotten better every year. So that's good. And I really don't, I don't hear that much about the programs in the newspapers and all these benefits that are out there. I think there's room for more marketing, and especially the CCI program, y'all's continuing conservation initiative. Most people don't know about that. Anything else? Well, I guess you all pass the course, right? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll stick around as long as y'all want. I know y'all have lots of work to do. I have enjoyed being with you this morning, and good luck to you. And if I can be of any service, I'll be glad to help you. Okay. So y'all are free to go. I'll stick around as long as you want.
Thanks so much, Bobby. That was incredible. And this is going to be sent out, a recording of this, so you can go back and reference any of those great slides and the information about your book and your downloadable book as well. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. Keith, good seeing you again. I'm going to see you here in next month, I believe.
Yeah, sometimes if you want to give me a shout or something, we'll touch base on next month.
Okay.
See what you want to do.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
In person.
Yeah.